Hey guys, Phillimus here, and KWC is underway at EWC, guys. All right, this is the Honor of Kings World Cup, super important tournament. We have teams all across the world competing. I will be there next week to do an analyst work / casting, so I'm excited for that. But until then, you guys can go ahead and watch it on Honor of Kings' official channel here or EWC's official channel. Look at all the boys here, man. We got Hauler, we got Kindofu here. I'm not very familiar with the gentleman here, but I'm sure he's a great caster too if he's on the EWC stage. But today I thought I'd go ahead and make a tier list on the characters that are going to be predominantly played in the KWC here. These are going to be your pro tier picks here. Not saying some of the characters that don't go on this list are bad, but this list is mainly going to be for competitive only. So we're only going to be ranking the best of the best characters. This list is not for peak tournament. It's not for ranking mode. It is purely for competitive and pro play. Here's how we're going to be bringing them down. We're going to be bringing them down by role here. So first one up here is Marksman. And before we get started, I want to show you guys the different tiers. We have S tier. This is a pick that's universally agreed upon to be overpowered. It's going to be first picked and banned a lot of the time. Their presence in esports is a term that means like how often that character gets selected, either being selected to be played or being selected to be banned. These characters here in the S tier usually have close to 100% presence. So in every single match, they should usually come up. A tier is a strong pick / meta staple. These characters are very strong. Sometimes you'll see them get banned. Sometimes later on in the draft, as you get less and less options, they will be priority and they will be first picked. But they are not like the initial first pick and ban for the first game that S tier is. Then we have B tier, a more niche / situational pick. These characters are picked, but usually they have conditions. They're either counter picks or they need to see a certain set of conditions before they go ahead and get picked up. And then C tier is a usually bad / very rarely played character. Nothing against these characters. A lot of the characters I love here are in C tier, but in pro play, most of the characters in the game do not cut it. You're only going to really be seeing a third of the characters in the game being played. But as we get more and more into these best of 5, best of 7s, you will still see the list creep up a little bit. I mean, creep down a little bit, and picks in B and C get picked up more. But that's because the S and A tier picks are already removed from the pool. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with Marksman. I don't want this video to be too long, so let's go ahead and move over here quickly. Agudo here is being put into Marksman. Agudo is a great character, competitive, but not for the Marksman role, so it's going to go into C tier. And a perfect example of nothing against the C tier picks, guys, Alessio is my favorite Marksman, and Alessio I have never seen a competitive game for. I'm sure he's been played in one league, in one region by someone that really loves him, but he's never really played, and he's not that good, generally considered. Now, the complete opposite of Alessio is someone like Arlie here. Arlie here is a very universally agreed upon, extremely strong pick. Usually first picked are banned here. It's going to show up in almost every single match here. Having so much mobility and damage available for it is great, especially in the hands of a pro. So Arlie is easily the best marksman in the game, I would say. And if you strive to be a pro, you're going to need to have Arlie in your toolkit here. Next one up, Consort U, another one of my favorite picks, but this is the definition of a niche / situational pick. Consort U is able to counter out some marksmen and compositions, but you can't really willy-nilly first pick it, because then the enemy team is going to pick stuff that counter you really easily. Consort U is great against some characters, but it's also very easily countered. Its skill 2 only prevents physical damage. So if you pick Consort U early, the enemy might pick something like Aaron, combing jungle, and then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble here as you're down a skill almost. So Consort U is probably the signature, counter pick here. So that's going to be in the B tier. One of the stronger counter picks, though, I would say. The Renji is a very strong meta staple pick. Usually when your team lacks a little bit of damage or the enemy team has a lot of tanks, you kind of round it out with something like the Renji. If you pick like a more burst style jungler and the enemy team has a lot of tanks to counter you out, you pick the Renji with that Imperial Mandate to kind of squishing up the enemy team there. So that's a very reliable meta pick, and it comes with crowd control as well too. Aaron is another like solo queue favorite. A lot of players love playing Aaron, but you don't see it played too much in competitive. I want to give it B, but it's probably on the top of C here. It's not really played too often. I have seen it like once, but still very, very rarely played. But that's a fan favorite pick here that doesn't get seen much in competitive. I'm sure some players have it as their signature pick. In some lineups, it makes sense as well too. Like it's between C or B, you know, like maybe bottom of B, top of C. I'm gonna keep it in C here for now because we don't see it too much. But if your team lacks a little bit of magic damage, it is one of the few marksmen, if not the only marksman, that can go magic. But in competitive, you rarely lack magic damage as your mage is gonna do enough magic damage usually. Next one up here, we have Fong. Fong is another situational slash niche pick against certain dive compositions. It being able to go invulnerable is pretty good. So as you can see here, the B tier is going to consist of these kind of counter picks here where you see the enemy team picked XYZ and Fong and Counter U is particularly good against it. That's usually when it comes in. Whereas D-Renji, you can kind of pick at any time. Arlie and pick at any time. Garo here on paper should be a good situational niche pick. If the enemy team really just has a lot of shields, you can go ahead and pick Garo and shred through them. But still, we rarely see it get picked. It is kind of picked like to similar frequency as Aaron here. I'll put it in the bottom of B though, because I think it has a bit more potential than the Aaron. But yeah, there are these weird niche situational picks here. Ho Yi, I want to put it in A, but it's not really A yet. It's probably top of B here. People usually play Ho Yi similar to D-Renji as more of a like crowd control bruisery marksman. I think D-Renji is almost always better though outside of certain select situations. So that's why Ho Yi is going to be in the niche tier. What's interesting to note is a lot of players, a very popular counter pick is Ho Yi versus Long. When Long is left up and you give it to the enemy, usually people pick Ho Yi to counter it out, as that stun from the ultimate is able to lock down Long, and teams that are coordinated are able to take out Long before he can get in the skies with his infinite vastness. Then we have Cannon Guy here. Cannon Guy, it just got buffed, man. But it is still just like Alessio, pretty bad. I've never really seen a game with it being played. I'm sure if you really draft a composition around it, maybe bring a Sun Sea in here to try and drive it around, it could be kind of interesting. But it is a bit too niche. A lot of people do want to try and make this character work though. I noticed like this character has a lot more fans and pro players like trying to make it work, but it is still generally not very good. It's probably better than a Gudo though, something like that. And Lady Sun, now where do I put Lady Sun? Lady Sun is an extremely strong pick here. It is minimum A. Do I want to put it in S? I don't think I want to put it in S yet. It's probably better than D-Renji here. Lady Sun, having that rolling raid here, given it being one of the few marksmen with a good amount of mobility here, Lady Sun is super good. It's good usually all throughout the game. It's pretty strong early, and then late game, it's still pretty solid. It's able to play safe at range, and it's more of a bursty style marksman. So the enemy team doesn't have much tanks. Lady Sun is great to be able to kind of one-shot people down with these singular auto attack combos here. So yeah, Lady Sun probably at the top of A tier. And then next one up, we have Long. Long has been nerfed, and it is not as good as it was in its prime, but Long is still easily an S tier pick. I'd say for pro players, it is worse than Arlie, but it is still really close up there. In normal play, I would say Long is usually better than Arlie, but in the hands of the pros, they can go ahead and use Arlie's strengths a little bit better. But Long, amazing. Having the infinite vastness, being able to almost get away from any situation is a tool for marksman that is invaluable. And because of that, the flaming proms, true damage coming out, Long has everything you need in a marksman. It just does everything, you know? Next one up, we have Laura. The opposite of does everything is someone like Laura here, which I don't even know what is that good at. I guess it after the recent updates, it has a decent amount of mobility, you know. It's able to chase people down pretty well, but it's one of these win more characters. Laura's only really good if it's winning. Sure, no one's good if they're losing, but like Laura's extra bad if you're losing. It's somewhere in the C tier here. It's hard to rank the C tier characters because they're never really picked. Luban, while Luban sees a good amount of play in the Chinese version because the Master Luban, we're talking about global version here today, so we're only ranking it off of the performance as done in the global leagues here, and Luban is never really played. It's in here somewhere. The C tier is really hard to you know, is really hard to dial down here. Next one up, we have Marco Polo. Marco Polo is for sure an A. I think it's under DRNG, probably the weakest pick here in A, but Marco Polo is a solid pick. If Yaria is up, you know, they even do that combo in pro play sometimes with Yaria. Marco Polo is it's more durable. Like you see these marksmen a little bit more durable in pro play. They really like picking stuff like Jing, and these Fade and Luna and these assassin style junglers, and being able to pick a marksman that could build that succubus and build something like that frigid charge to give you a little bit of armor here so you don't get punched through by Axe of Torments and stuff is pretty good. I'd say it's on the bottom of A. You can make an argument for it being in the top of B as well, depending on how like niche down you want to go ahead and use your picks here. Then we have Mingye. Mingye, another pick that's like, you know, I've seen it played a little bit, okay? I've seen it played a little bit. I'm not going to put it in C because this C is more played than everyone here in C, but it's probably going to be at the bottom of B. You really pick Mingye when you have a composition for him. It's not a counter pick. It's more that you've drafted your composition in a way that can go ahead and protect the Mingye and let him scale. Late game, Mingye is amazing, but the higher the competition goes, you're going to see average game time usually go down. So that's why Mingye is not the best. But out of respect for some of the teams that play it, we'll put it in the bottom B tier. Some teams do actually play Mingye. And lastly, we have Shoyue. Shoyue here, it's probably in the higher end of B tier, if not bottom of A. Just so that we don't have too many picks. No, I think it is B though. I don't think it quite competes with these 5 up here. It is probably going to be at the top of B here. A very reliable pick. You will see it being picked, but it's almost always picked in the later games in a match here when all of these 5 get removed from play. Some matches you don't see it get picked, which makes sense because there's 5 marksmen that are clearly better than it. But sometimes, depending on how bans go, you will see it get picked up here, and we will see some of these go down. But yeah, these are going to be characters you're going to be seeing in almost every single match. These are characters you're going to be seeing like 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 matches. And then these are characters you're going to be seeing in 1 in 10, if not 15 and 20 matches here. So there's all the marksmen. Tell me what you guys think. And now let's move on to mages. All right, this video might get pretty long. I'm gonna try and speed things up and just like remove the picks that are never really played out of the way that we don't really need to talk about here. So here into mages, or the mid lane pick here, picks that you're never really gonna see is Sima Yi. A lot of Sima Yi fans, but it's not very good. Gao, again, not going to be very good for competitive. We're just going to quickly glance over these and move these out of the way. Dr. Beyond, not going to see play. I'm not going to, you know, like rearrange C tier too much because it's just so, it's so hard and competitive. Zhou Yu also doesn't really see play. I'm going to keep him here for now. Let's knock all these out. Liang mid is very, very rare. I'm gonna put it in C as well too. It's played in support a lot, but not in mid. Same with Dasha out here. Probably gonna be in C. Okay. I think just right there, these are pretty solid in C tier. I'm sure they've been played before, you know, but they're never really, like I said, they're 1 in 10 games, 1 in 15 games. Let's move on to stuff that, like here, that we actually do see gameplay. Oh, they actually have 2 Dachis and 2Dao Chaos for some reason. Okay, we'll leave those. Angela here. Angela is a very, very solid B tier niche pick. It is played. You know, I've seen it played a good amount. It usually pairs with someone like Diadea or someone that has very straightforward crowd control on the roam position, because you can go ahead and lock someone down in the face of Angela and she lasers them down. It's definitely not seen every single game, but if it does come up in the right situation, no one really, you know, is surprised. So Angela is going to be a great B tier niche situational pick. Dachi is actually in C as well too, actually, I think. Like, this might be crazy for you peak players or solo queue players, but Dachi is not really played in competitive. I don't think I've watched the game where Dachi's played. Again, I'm sure someone has played it somewhere, but it's not played in competitive here. Next one up, we have Daochan. Daochan mid. They play Daochan Clash a good amount. Not a good amount, but like a niche amount. Daochan mid, I don't see too often. I'll put it at the bottom of B because sometimes it could be flex picked in the clash lane and in the mid lane, but definitely not something you're going to see very, very often. It's barely making it onto the niche tier here. Now, someone that is not niche is Princess Frost. Princess Frost doesn't really draw bans too often, but like it is a very meta staple mid laner, a great mid laner that can delegate farm and give farm to the other members of his teams. Princess Frost does not need much farm to be useful. It's all about that crowd control and applying anti-heal and burn via its items, and it just funnels all the farm into his jungler usually. Princess Frost also is great with some of the other support picks. Princess Frost Liang is a great combo. All around strong pick that's not strong enough to really get banned, you know, but is picked a fair amount here. Speaking of a strong pick here, Gan and Mo is, in my opinion, clearly better than Princess Frost. Do I want to put it in S tier? I'll put it in S tier for now because I don't think there's too many S tier mages. Gan and Mo, extremely strong mage. You're going to notice that characters that are harder to play are going to be better in competitive because pros don't have the skill issue. They're pros, you know? They're good at the game, right? So Gan and Mo here is going to be in the S tier. It's not going to be as good as someone else I'm going to put on here later on, but it's pretty solid. Hano is played, but again, it's more of a niche pick. I'm actually not too sure compositions that enjoy Hano. He has a good amount of poke. He's durable. If you need someone a little bit bruisery, Hano is very good against melees. If the enemy team picks a lot of melees, Hano could be pretty good. Against someone like the Mai, Hano is pretty good too, but still people prefer other picks against the Mai. But it is a matchup I think that is favorable in the mid to late game as Hano does not get assassinated by Mai. Next up, we have Ko-Ming. Ko-Ming in competitive is played a fair amount mid. I would say in competitive, Ko-Ming is played just as much as jungle, if not a little bit more. Whereas in solo/rank play, Ko-Ming is usually almost always in the jungle role. It's another niche pick here, somewhere in B. It is definitely played. It's not in C tier, but it's not something you see very often. And this is a lot of like mid laners, like signature picks, you know? Like you're going to see characters that are worse that get played because people just like them. Like a lot of mid laners just like Ko-Ming. So that's why he's going to be in B tier here. Lady Jen here, another solid A tier pick. Probably, in my opinion, a little bit worse than Princess Frost. I prefer the utility from Princess Frost, but it's a toss-up. You know, other pro players or analysts are going to tell you that Lady Jen's a little bit better than Princess Frost. Basically, these two characters serve the exact same role, but Princess Frost provides more crowd control, whereas Lady Jen provides more damage. So depending on what you need at the time, they're fairly interchangeable. Next one up, we have the Terror from SNK, Mai. Mai is probably undisputed best mid laner in the game here. It just has great matchups into a lot of mages here, has amazing poke, is really safe. The thing is about a Mai is that since it's so widely understood as the best, players do like develop strategies to try and counter it out specifically, whereas stuff like Lady Jen you can never really counter out. Mai is the best though. It is pick banned and has probably the highest presence. Mai and Arlie have the highest presence in the game, so definitely the top of S tier there. Milady, I love Milady, guys. I hate playing against it, but I love playing it. Milady is usually bad, but yeah, it is usually bad. It's seen like I've seen it. I've seen it played one time and actually won. But it is usually bad. It's a 1 in 20 game character here. Motsu in the mid lane as well too. Motsu is a great roamer, but in the mid lane, it is usually bad as well. It's usually bad as well. I'm not going to put these guys in order here. If you're C, you're just C. Next one up, we have Nua. Now, this is another solid, strong meta staple pick. I don't think it's as staple as the Lady Jen and Princess Frost, but easily an A tier pick that is leagues above something like the Angela here. Being able to fire that annihilation around the map, either to steal objectives or support your team or to clear waves, is just so like valuable. And then in a pro setting too, with comms and stuff like that, your Nua is always going to be sharp. You know, your marksman and Rome that are going to be fighting about like, hey, like like, yo, we need a little bit more damage. Nua can fire that Annihilation under tower, or if they notice the enemy team trying to steal some towers, there were some pushes, Nua is able to go ahead and clean that up at any point in the map. Extremely strong here, and one of the more carry style mages. It's like a weaker version of Ganemo. Ganemo is like a carry mage. Nua is like a slightly weaker carry mage, but still definitely very strong. Outranges Ganemo a lot. Does not do as much damage as Ganemo, but outranges him tremendously here. Shangguan here, probably the top of niche and B tier here. It is great against certain compositions, against characters that it knows it can just jump on, then they can't really do anything to defend themselves, you know? Like, if you're against a Princess Frost, she realistically cannot defend herself against a Shangguan dive here. All Shangguan needs to do is dodge that skill 2, which is extremely easy for Shangguan. Or if your team has some enablers like the Dolia, Shangguan is also pretty good as well too. So that's going to be in the top of B tier here. We have Sha. Sha, this is my personal, like, this is my favorite mid, actually, to watch and to commentate over. And it's such a selfless mid. All it is crowd control. It is like Princess Frost, but even more crowd control, even less damage. It's gonna be in the bottom of A tier here, but it's my favorite pick. I really love seeing the Sha, and I really respect mid laners that can play the Sha well, being able to enable their team. It takes a certain, you know, type of selfless, you know, mid laner to play the Sha, to play for the team, you know, pull enemies into their junglers and marksmen and get their jungle and marksman fed. If you have a team that revolves around the jungle and marksman and not really the mid to wave clear, pick up that Sha, try and be a secondary support for your team there. Next up, we have Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao here, again, not really played. I'm going to just put it in C. It's never really seen. Yeah, not much to talk about there. Yi Jing, another solid pick. As you see, mid lane has a lot of these, like, A tier picks as opposed to Marksman there, which is a lot more jarring. A lot of picks can be played in mid, a lot of variety here. Yi Jing is probably right in front of Nua here. Being able to use that board to either open up team fights or to create space for your team to retreat is amazing here. You can never really go wrong with Yi Jing. Yi Jing is a little bit better with engage compositions here, with something like the Zhongfei on Roam, but it could really slot into any position here. Mid laners are extremely versatile. Next one up, we have Yuan. Yuan, another, like, flex pick here. It is probably like at the top of B / bottom of A. It's somewhere here. I'm gonna put it in the top of B for now. You're gonna see it like once every other match. You're gonna see the Yuan. It can be played in the Clash lane, the jungle lane, the roam position. So it's a very safe pick early, and because of that, it's very valuable in competitive. You can just pick it, and then depending on what the enemy picks, you can either swap it into roam or mid or anything other than marksman. Yuan can technically play Clash. It doesn't play too much, but yeah, that's why Yuan is a great pick here. Xia is, again, another C tier pick, usually bad, never really played mid. A lot of players love playing Xia too, but it's very, very niche. You're gonna see it once every 5 or 10 or 15 games, so that's gonna be in C here too. Just to save time, I'm not gonna explain the C tier picks too much. You're not gonna see them too often. If you do see a C tier pick come out, it has to be for a very good reason, or like it's a spice pick, you know, that team is feeling themselves. Next one up here too, my favorite lane, even though I think it sucks in solo play, but in competitive, Clash lane is extremely important here. So we're on to Clash lane here. Let's go ahead and knock our C tier out of the way. My favorite Clash laner, Zhang Yu, C tier, unfortunately. Another one of my favorites, Lubu, C tier. Why are all my picks C tier, guys? All right, tragic here. Okio, C tier. What else we got here? Kaiser, C tier. Dahua, C tier. Monkey, C tier. Oh, it's tragic. Ada, C tier. What else here? Masashi, C tier. Yao, C tier. Swanza, C tier. Yang Zhuan is played a little bit. I'm not going to instantly put in C tier here. Liang Po is played a very little bit. Ogren is played a very little bit. Wian, C tier. What else we got here? Arthur, C tier. A lot of C tier picks. There's a lot of Clash laners. Only a few of them are really played, as you can see here. Futsu. Oh man, Futsu is probably C tier as well. Some teams play it though. Some teams that really like Futsu play it, but probably C tier here. Yeah, probably knock all these out of the way. Um, a lot of fan favorites in here, but again, this is for pro play, and in pro play, these are almost never picked. So I'm not going to go over them too often here. Yeah, that should be pretty safe here for the C tier. And then let's get started here with Elaine. Elaine used to be a strong pick or a meta staple. I would say Elaine now is probably on high B tier. Got nerfed a bunch of times, and people rarely play compositions with it. When you get a Dolia, you know, that's the signature combo. Dolia Elaine is definitely going to be picked. But unless you really play around it or later on in the match, Elaine is not going to be played too often. Ogren, if I'm probably gonna put Ogre in C tier. It's played in jungle a lot, but sometimes it does get forced up into Clash Lane, but it's extremely rare. I'm gonna keep it in C tier. Charlotte is actually an amazing meta staple Clash Laner. I'm not sure if I want to put it in S yet. It is extremely strong. You're gonna see it get played. Is it gonna be played every single match? No. But I think it is strong though. Like it's an A tier pick. It is probably the only A tier pick that's not gonna be seen in almost every single match here. Next one up, we have Dharma. Dharma, another meta staple pick here. Being able to truth mantra, you're always going to be valuable. Pros love Dharma. Is it overpowered first pick and ban? I would say no. It never really gets pick banned that much. I think in the Clash lane, you're not going to see many S tier picks that are like widely considered overpowered, you know? We have next up is Dune. Dune is played a lot more in the jungle, but I would say in Clash, it is still sometimes played as a weird niche situational pick. Guan Yu, another one of those characters that are really good and competitive because they're hard to play and pros don't have a skill issue. Guan Yu is probably going to be in the bottom of AT here. Some pros really like it, and Tank Guan Yu is a menace, and it fits into almost any composition, you know, because it can engage, it can disengage, it can disrupt, it can dive. Guan Yu is an extremely strong pick here. Heino, another situational pick. I'm not really sure when it's great, but in some matchups, Heino gets to really bully the other Clash laner. If you see that the enemy team drafted around their farm lane, and you know you're not going to be getting ganked too often in the Clash lane, you pick someone like Heino or even the Miyu and really bully out your laner here. Miyu, another favorite of mine here, probably in the situational slash niche tier. I think Miyu's probably a little bit more picked than Dune in competitive though. But these picks rely on abusing their laner and playing against compositions that cannot help their Clash laner much. Next up, we have Li Shin, another pick that is never really played. I'm gonna put this in C. I don't see it too often. I'm sure it's okay in some niche situations though, but you're not gonna see that too often. Liang Po, another niche pick here. You see the power level of Clash laners is a lot lower than the Marksman and Mages there, so you don't really ever need to prioritize picking your Clash laner often. We have Liang Po. It's probably at around this range here. It can be flex picked and moved to the Clash lane if your support gets something else a little bit better. We have Li Bang. Li Bang here is a great Clash laner in competitive. I'd say it's in A tier, at the very bottom of A tier, but teams love playing it. Being in a coordinated play, being able to call down a battlefield command at any time to join a fight is amazing. You can split push and keep a laner with you, and then whenever your team is fighting, immediately join the fight, which is great. Bottom of A tier, this is probably like the most jarring change here as opposed to solo queue. These two in solo queue are not that good, but in competitive are amazing. Mayeen, like, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. This is my go out on a limb pick here, okay? Y'all that watch my stream know I hate Mayeen, okay? I think she is so overpowered. This is my go out on a limb pick here. I'm gonna put Mayeen in S tier. I think Mayeen is so good. No, it's not S tier. It's not. I want to put. It's not S tier. It's really not. It's like right here. But like every time I play against it and it beats the shit out of me, I feel like it's S tier though. All right, but pros probably don't have the skill issue like me. Mayeen, another very strong pick, very reliable. You can really pick it into anything here. Safe blind pick here. Mulan is like, I want to put it at the bottom of 18. It is a strong pick. It is just like the Koming. It's one of those picks that like pros love playing, and you're gonna see it played more because pros love it. Where I think it's like the very top of B, super top of B. You're gonna see it more than everyone else in B though, but it's because pros really love playing the Mulan, you know. Neza is somewhere in B. It's never really picked too often. It does get played sometimes. It gets played jungle sometimes too, but it's another very niche pick. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of B here. These are kind of really hard to gauge because they're very very rarely played. Now, someone I know for sure is S tier is Byron. Byron, probably the best Clash laner. It's good at all stages in the game. Everyone always says it's great early game, but and then they insinuate it's bad late game. It's good late game too. It's good late game. It's good at all parts of the game. It's just that it's extremely strong in the early part of the game. So Byron is going to be our first S tier Clash laner here. Sunset here, another great Clash laner too. I would say it's probably better and more often picked than something like the Guan Yu. I think Charlotte's probably a little bit better. Charlotte's probably better than me in here. Sunset here, solidly in the A tier. A lot of options for you to go ahead and play here in the Clash lane. They just have a lot more characters, so they have a lot more bad characters. But they also have a good amount of solid playable characters too. Yang Juan, another more niche pick here. Somewhere in here, I'm not too sure. It does get picked sometimes, but not too often here. Bai Chi is also on here as well too. Bai Chi, I'm pretty sure is usually bad. I've never really seen it picked. It's probably okay in certain compositions, but I do not expect it to be picked in KWC at all. So I'm going to put it in usually bad. And there it is. There is your Clash lane list. Byron squarely in the A. You could try it. You can move up Dharma to S if you really want and do something like this. You could do something like that. I think that's fair too, you know, depending on how you really look at it. But yeah, something like this is fair, I think. But you rarely see Dharma get banned. He does get banned sometimes. He does get banned sometimes. Charlotte, you never see get banned. Mei, you never really see get banned. So yeah, I think this is a fair list for Clash Lane. Next one up, we have Roma support. This is going to be another one of those more jarring roles here. Not many characters on here, but a good amount of these do get picked up and played a good amount. Let's go ahead and remove the C tiers out of the way. Li Shan does not get played. What else? Koi does not get played. Gugatsu does not get played. Zhang Yu does not get played. What else? Everyone else might get played, actually. Everyone else kind of gets played. So not many C tiers, actually. For Zia really doesn't get played that much either. Out of respect, we'll keep it on here. I'm sure it gets played a tiny little bit here. First up, we have Cyan. Cyan is it's on the low end of A, I'd say. It's a very reliable pick. In competitive, everyone's gonna build anti-heal the second you pick Cyan now, but it does get played a little tiny bit. It's in the very low end of A, but nah, I'd probably say it's top of B. Top of B is probably a little bit safer. We have Da Chao here. Da Chao does get played a good amount too. A lot of picks get played in Rome actually here, but it probably gets played a little bit more than Cyan being able to portal around your team and such. We have our first meta staple here, Dolia. I wouldn't say Dolia is overpowered or it's a first pick and banned, but it's definitely a very solid meta staple, and it enables a lot of weaker characters. Dolia is better the later on in the set it is, because it can make these B and C tier characters into A and S tier characters when you have a Dolia on the team. So extremely strong pick there. We have Da Huang here, which is another niche / counter pick. Usually you pick it against other melee supports like the Liang Po. It can kind of grab out of the air, which is nice for it here, but it's somewhere over here. Dune, never really played Rome. I'm gonna put it in C. I've never seen it roam too often. It's okay roam. It could be played, but it's very rare. We have the Diadea is going to be our first S tier pick. Amazing support. I think got nerfed a little bit, but it's still amazing. Usually you're going to see Diadea get first picked pretty often. It doesn't really get banned too often, but it gets first picked pretty often, and then it gets banned after a team has played it, and they don't want the enemy team to have it, then it starts getting banned. It doesn't get banned first game usually, but Diadea, a great support there, just very reliable, being able to remove economy from the enemy. You have your targeted crowd control that cannot miss. Another meta staple here is Liang Po. It's premium. Liang Po and Zhongfei are basically one and the same. They're both just such premium, they're just such premium melee tank supports. If you want a melee tank, you need your team to be a little bit beefier. You're picking one of the two, and they're fairly interchangeable, but I think Zhongfei is going to be a little bit better. Liang, another meta staple here on Roam. It does get banned sometimes. It's great with a lot of mid laners being able to lock someone down and hold them down for their mid laners crowd control here. Better with mages, whereas the melee supports are probably better with some dive compositions like mine. We have Li Bang here. Li Bang is another niche situational pick for support. Rarely picked, but it is picked sometimes if you just need that mobility around the map and you want that initiation. Sometimes you might pick this with a Han Shin or like a really mobile, like a Jing or a Fade. You'll pick this in support to try and, be with them at any time at a moment's notice. Ming, another niche pick here. Doesn't get played too often, but in the right situation where, teams want to play around their marksman, it could be pretty good. Motsu, another strong meta pick here. Motsu has some of the best poke. It's poke laced with crowd control as well, too. Really annoying to play against. Motsu is great with mages and is great against mages. Against Gan and Mo, he's so immobile and short range. He almost always gets bullied by the cannon blast from Motsu. But if you have Motsu on your team and you play Gan and Mo, you're very happy, too, because Motsu can go ahead and lock someone down at range for you to land your blades on here. So Motsu is another great pick. We have Saker, another very, very solid pick here too. I think Saker's probably a little bit better than Liang Po. Liang Po's probably at the bottom of A tier here, but I think it's very, very good. Saker has some of the highest burst damage you can see here in the roam position. It combos great with Marksman to have crowd control to help him set up his crowd control here in that skill 1 that does an insane amount of damage, especially with the build that Saker goes. Usually Saker can half health any squishy, so like if you're with a Hou-Yi or a D-Renji that can lock down the enemy Marksman, Saker can fly forward and basically one-shot them almost, it feels like. All right. Next one up here, we have Sun Bin, another niche situational pick. It's a great disengage, probably one of the best disengage supports, but disengage is not too meta right now. I'd say it's on the top of B tier. Very, very good pick in competitive, not as good in solo play. Yarria, another situational pick. Sometimes you pick if you got a Luna or a Jing or a Fade or Marco Polo. It's one of those, it's like a weaker version of Dolia that can really turn some picks out of control. So it's going to be somewhere here in the B tier. Yeah, as we get through these lists, we got to start moving through them a little bit quicker here. One of my favorites, Swansa here, the whale guy. Unfortunately, he is very niche pick. He is played a little bit, but he's like really, really niche though. Against teams with like very impressive crowd control, you can go ahead and pick him. If you're against like a Liang Po and you have someone you want to protect, like a Ming Ya maybe, you could go ahead and try and pick him here. He's probably going to be at the bottom of the B tier niche situational pick as well. And then we have Zia here, another niche situational pick. All of these, like, I'm not going to rank these too hard. I think Dahuan is probably a little bit high here. It's going to be somewhere along these lines here. Depending on the team, depending on the composition, some are going to be better than the others here. But I think this is a fair list here for support. The idea being the only S tier support makes a lot of sense to me. And then a good amount of these A tier picks you're going to see about every match. Yeah, I think this is pretty fair here in the support role here. Tell me what you guys think about these supports here. Last but not least, one of the most important roles here, the carry role, the melee carry role usually is the jungle role. You're going to see a lot of usually bad picks. So I'm immediately going to like dust half of this right here. Okay, ready? And go. Arky's bad. Arthur's bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. A lot of people are bad here, guys. All right. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. Okay, Nakaru, you're bad. Again, guys, don't get feelings hurt here, guys. Nothing against these characters. I like a lot of these characters. It's just in competitive, they are not good. They're not good. Wukong is bad. Okio is bad. Leon is bad. Seance is bad. Yao is bad. Yang Zhuan is bad. Ying is usually bad. Everyone, Miyu is bad. Yeah, I think it's fair to say, like, depending on the bet, I would bet that none of these get picked for the KWC here. So these are all almost never really gonna. I've never seen someone play Z Long as well either, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. First one up, let's go ahead and do Agudo. Agudo, a strong meta staple pick. A lot of teams like playing Agudo. A lot of the Spanish teams love Agudo. It's a great anchor It's played as a tank, by the way. It's not played as damage. It's played as a Blood Rage Frostscar full tank, usually to anchor your team here and be in the middle of them to try and protect your marksman from dives and such. And if your marksman get dives, you shoot the fall furball into them and knock them up. But there's a Gudo here, very, very solid pick. Speaking of solid picks, we got Augur in here. Probably one of the best, if not the best, one of the highest presence junglers here. Just, it's a scaler, though. That's the one thing that that Augur is not that good at here, is that his early game is not that great, but once he gets a little bit of items and he gets rolling, and if you ever let him, you know, sneak through the early game, steal some jungle, and get ahead, you're going to be in a bunch of trouble. That execute is too valuable, and then mid to late game, Augur gets a lot of damage off. It is very resource required, though. And reliant, so you're gonna want to pick a mid that can funnel it some resources. Probably not something like a Ganon MO. You probably want to pick something more like a Princess Frost that can give him the mid. But Augur here, solid OP first pick and ban S tier pick. Charlotte, I think, is bad too, so that's not really played. Dan Wei, another solo queue favorite. Actually, a niche situational pick, and when Dan Wei is picked, it actually usually wins. Because Dan Wei is only picked against compositions that it's extremely good against. Dan Wei counters stuff like Princess Frost, the Sha, you know. If the enemy team picks a bunch of crowd control and not that much damage, Dan Wei is amazing, because Dan Wei can just cleanse all of that and just punch right through and kill you. So Dan Wei doesn't get picked often, but when it picks, it usually wins, actually. We have Dune here, another meta staple here, probably one of the best meta staple tanks. He's not good enough to really get banned. He just got nerfed a bunch. He just got nerfed a bunch, though. I'm sure he's still going to be played, though, because he's so reliable. He has so much crowd control, mobility, and durability. Even though he got nerfed, like, patch after patch, he is still an amazing pick. Maybe it's a little bit worse than a Gudo now because of that, though. Then we have Fong. Fong, another situational pick. It's situational for both Marksman and for Jungle here. People pick it when they want a fast clearing jungle that applies pressure a little bit early and their team's lacking a bit of damage. Usually junglers are either assassins or tanks, but some spots you might need a marksman, so that's when it's going to get picked here. Fade, one of our newest picks here, and it's actually pretty good, you know. It's picked a decent amount. I don't think it gets picked as much as Dune, but when the top tier jungler gets banned later on in the sets, it usually gets picked up. So when Jing and Luna are off the table, and those are pretty high presence bans here, you know, people are gonna move to Fade, and because he's not banned but he's still pretty good, he's gonna be an A tier here. Hanshin, a situational pick, used to be a lot better. Is played tank usually in competitive. Some teams like playing it damage. I don't think it's as good damage. Another weird niche situational pick. He clears among the fastest. He gets around the map the fastest. If you want to play more of a split push composition, Hanshin is amazing for split pushing and taking towers, and he's really slippery and hard to catch, you know. So Hanshin's going to be all right there. Jing is going to be another S tier pick here. I think junglers have the most S tier, most highest presence picks here. Jing, absolutely amazing. Again, these characters that are very hard to play are amazing for pros because they play the game for a living. So they're going to be amazing on Jing. Jing, one of the most contested picks here. Most assassin players will have Jing in their repertoire and prefer to play Jing. They'll sometimes ban Oghren, pick Jing, or, you know, they're confident in their Jing. They play it against Oghren and dominate early game anyway, right? Kaiser, another niche situational pick here. Kaiser is amazing at scaling, but if you look at the S and A tier picks here, those characters don't need much gold to get rolling. They farm really quick. The thing about Kaiser is he doesn't farm very quick, and he requires a lot of gold. If your composition allows for a scaler like him, he is amazing in the late game. He is easily stronger than every single pick, maybe outside of Oghren in the late game above him. But his early game is what really sets him back. Koming, again, doesn't get picked too often, but sometimes if you need some magic damage from your jungler for whatever reason, he could be good for that situation. Maybe if your Clash laner is going to build Axe of Torment and you have something like a Long or a Lady Sun Marksman and you really want to get the enemy team to not stack armor, you can get Koming in here. But it's going to be honorary B tier here. Lamb is in like the bottom of A tier in my opinion. It's actually a good pick in certain situations. A lot of teams struggle to make it work though. I'm actually gonna put it at the top of B. I'm gonna put it at the top of B. I've casted a few Lamb games and it usually does poorly, unfortunately. It just requires too many resources for too little reward. Fade is just like the better version of Lamb for competitive. And Prince is like the worst version of Lamb. So if Lamb isn't even that good, Prince is also not that good here too. I'm gonna put it like right here at the bottom niche here. It might get seen a little bit, but very, very rare. Like 1 in 5 games, maybe. Someone that's not rare is Luna. Luna, another S tier pick. Luna, Jing, depending on what you guys need. Depending on what you guys need here. Magic damage or physical damage, I'd say they're both just as strong. I think Luna is a little bit weaker because succubuses are gonna destroy Luna more as opposed to Jing. There's not really much you can build to make Jing useless, whereas if you build a succubus, you counter out both the enemy mage and their Luna, and even Marksman can build succubuses pretty reliably here. But Luna, obviously an S tier pick, does objectives insanely fast, does everything really, really fast. Another meta staple here is Monkey. Monkey, I actually love watching Monkey games. He's really fun. He's a tank. He's not picked as much nowadays, but still a very, very reliable pick. Being able to constantly fight, loves fighting here. Dune and Monkey have a similar kind of play style where they just love constantly fighting. Masashi, a situational pick here, but one of the best situational picks, I think. A lot of people pick it against the Ogren here, the duel to death, stopping its healing. Masashi is the definition of like a counter pick. It used to be a lot better, but now it's almost exclusively a counter pick here after some nerfs. They did buff it back a little bit with the Ichigo skin. Maybe it's played a little bit more, but definitely situational here. Pei, another S tier pick. I personally think Pei is the best jungler, you know? The teams that play Pei make it look so insane, you know, like they run the game so hard. And if you draft the composition around Pei, there's almost nothing you can do. It feels like a guaranteed win. If your team is good at playing Pei and they draft around it, they just control the early game so well. I think Pei is actually better than Ogren. It might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Pei is better than Ogren here. And it's another like high damage, high tempo jungler. Again, hard to play, so good and competitive. Sima Yi, I've never seen it really played. If for whatever reason the enemy team is, I guess it could be, if the enemy team is like very mage heavy, they have Luna, they have Luna plus Mai. Sima Yi could be okay, but it's so niche, man. It's so situational, so niche. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of B because I could see it getting played, but again, not crazy good. Sunsi mainly played as a Clash laner, never really played as a jungler after the nerfs especially. Again, maybe if they need to flex it in the jungle, it'll get played, but I'll put it at the bottom of B here. For junglers, you're only really going to see these guys. There's a lot of situational picks that could get picked, but these guys are never really picked as often. I'd say these guys are picked like one every 3 or 4 games, whereas these guys are picked every single game here. Yuan Jungle, another pick that could be played, but is really, really rare. I'll put it at the bottom of B. And then Zilong, I've never really seen Zilong picked. Zilong is just like worse than Hanja. I'm actually going to put Zilong in C actually. I never really see him get picked. If you want someone that does something that Zilong does, you're just going to pick Han Shin or someone else, I think. And there is your jungling list here. A lot of niche picks here. A solid amount of, and the most S tier picks. That's why I see junglers get banned the most. Double checking this to make sure this all looks right. Again, C tier is not in any order. Looks about right to me. Yeah, looks about right to me. But yeah, that's the tier list, guys. Tell me what you guys think. Hopefully this gives you guys a good little edge in knowledge when you guys are watching KWC and you kind of get a sense of what is a spice pick, what is something that's standard. Tell me what you guys think, if you guys agree or disagree with my list here. Thanks for watching, guys. It's Phil Yumus here signing out. Make sure you use the links in the description below and look forward to seeing your boy on camera next week as I'm coming in for the second week of KWC.